all-women team. Was there any pushback? I mean, how difficult was it to put this team together?
So the three of us founding partners, Yumiko Murakami, Miwa Seki, and myself, we've been friends, colleagues, client sell-side relationship for over 2 decades. And we were all reaching that point of our lives when we thought, what's the next chapter going to be for us? And since we all have so much collective energy that we couldn't just imagine retiring and sitting on a beach somewhere, we thought, how can we exert more impact, particularly in this area of ESG, where frankly, all of us as a team have done a lot of work, analysis, whether it's gender diversity or corporate governance issues, sustainability, well before ESG became this concept that it is today. And so we thought, maybe we can, marry our financial expertise, experience in ESG, and really help startups get up to speed and integrate ESG in their DNA before they go public, which of course, as we all know, look at the NASDAQ listing requirements they're proposing. You need to have at least 2 diverse directors to be listed on NASDAQ potentially going forward. But not only that, we think a lot of these ESG principles are actually pretty basic, good governance, concern about the well-being of your employees, making sure the supply chain isn't destroying the environment, et cetera. But startups are startups, so they need some help along the way.
How much more powerful, how much more effective is an all-women team in pushing diversity and ESG when it comes to trying to implement the policies in startups?
So frankly speaking, we're not really pushing the fact that we're an all-female team. It just so happened that we're all female, but we're all like-minded in terms of our mission. But interestingly, we've spoken with quite a number of startups already, and we are getting asked kind of the obvious question like, we need to diversify our board because we plan to go public in the next couple of years. Can you help us identify a female board candidate? And through our combined networks, we do have a lot of contacts, both here in Japan and elsewhere. So that's kind of one pretty easy ask or unique ask that I think they can make of MPower Partners versus, say, most of the other VC funds here in Japan, which tend to be, as you know, quite male-dominated.
And Kathy, you mentioned, of course, you coined the term womenomics. You were part of this whole third arrow strategy from Shinzo Abe, the former prime minister. And you also have GPIF that really have paved the way for ESG to thrive in Japan, but it's still lagging behind countries like the US and the rest of the world. How can the country actually catch up?
So the answer is multifold. There are many levers that still need to be pulled to bring Japan, in general, up those global gender rankings. But for our team, we believe that to exert more direct impact at the micro level, when a company is not a fully formed adult, but rather perhaps a teenager or an older child, it's easier to integrate these principles of good governance, of diversity, of sustainability when they're younger. If you wait till you're public and you're a large, conglomerate company, it's just more difficult to change. And I've seen in my 30-year research career as a Japanese equity strategist how tough it is for large companies to make those very significant changes, right, in their DNA. So to me, for Japan to really embrace womenomics and embrace gender diversity, yes, there are a lot of things that still need to be done at the policy level, at the company employer level, which we've written a lot about in the past, which I'm still going to be a personal advocate for. But I think with the next stage of my life and my team's life, we would really want to exert that impact in a very direct way. And we all know Japan has very low productivity, has a lot of opportunity in terms of human capital and talent, tons of opportunities, kind of a hidden gem, right? If you look at VC markets around the world, Japan is still tiny in comparison. So,
yeah, I was going to ask about about starting these startups early with the whole integration of ESG. At this point, though, it seems like ESG is something that is nice to have, not exactly a must-have sort of values in a company.
Exactly.
And economics, you got to look at the numbers as well. How can early and late stage growth companies and startups that are presumably not profitable, how can they actually adopt ESG without hindering their growth?
So this is exactly the point that I tried to sort of convey or evangelize about with womenomics, right? The only reason I think that womenomics actually got traction was because I positioned the concept front and center as this is imperative for growth. Putting it in an economic context. In other words, it's not a zero sum. You have to give up growth to have, diversity in your company. No. This is actually central to your business strategy and central to driving that sustainable growth that you actually need to drive. So very similarly and very consistently, I believe, with startup companies, if we can embed this, early and encourage founders to understand that these concepts are not like CSR peripheral activities that they can worry about when they've done everything else, but actually front and center central to their growth strategy, their business strategies. That's the way they're going to scale. That's the way they will gain new market opportunities. That's the way they're going to retain and attract and retain the best quality human capital talent out there. It's just so comprehensive and so critical to every element of a startup's growth journey.
Kathy, the reality is that there's still a huge gender gap in Japan. I mean, when you take a look at women on boards, it's only 10% of Japanese companies. Realistically, how do you get to 30? How soon can you get to 30?
So it's not an easy path. It's a very ambitious target. But I mean, our team, we know so many talented females in the market, yet they're just not known, or they're just not aware of the opportunities that might exist by serving on a company board. So I believe that through connecting the dots, through providing, training type resources, it won't be that difficult to find. Now, how long would that take? It all depends. But I can tell you, whether it's a publicly traded company or startup, one of their most pressing issues is board diversity. And so I think in that regard, the timing of our fund is, I think, pretty decent. There's a lot of demand out there. Even listed companies are still struggling to identify, diverse board directors as well. And so, again, it's not going to be solvable overnight, of course, but I think through all of our collective connections, we can help identify that talent earlier than not.
Kathy, real quickly, what does this mean for the fund when it comes to returns then? Have you made any initial projections?
Well, we want to, our first and foremost goal is to generate superior financial returns. And again, the key to doing so, we believe, is by integrating ESG in our investment process. And we're going to partner with our portfolio companies, work together with them to figure out the roadmaps they need to pursue with respect to their ESG goals. So this is not just write a check and say good luck on ESG. We're going to be very, very directly working with our portfolio companies, and that's what we're really excited about.